We all met this man way before we actually had the desire of meeting him. When I personally met him a week before classes began, I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I thought this man was scary and strict. I later made the mistake of calling him a bitter old man, which he never let me forget. However, he did tease me a lot, so I'm pretty sure we were even. I, of course, am referring to my first impression of this man via his YouTube syllabus series. It's so fascinating. But I'm, of course, referring to the lovable Professor Fike. Professor Fike also...
I'm going to die today. Okay, thank you.
Professor Fike, also known as Barry.
Oh, jeez.
Excuse me. This is a eulogy. Barry, Fike, or the Fikinator to his students outside of the classroom. When Mrs. Fike asked me to do this speech, I was incredibly honored, but I was so worried that I wasn't going to be able to reflect the multi-dimensional character of Barry Fike. So today I will do my best to share with you what it was like to have Professor Fike as a teacher. Barry Fike was not only an excellent professor, but he served as a mentor, a role model, and a friend to his students. And I'm going to shine some light on that today. Oh, I don't have to do it. From the moment we walked into the classroom, Professor Fike demanded respect from us. The first couple of classes were he was very serious about the subject of public speaking, and you could tell he was very knowledgeable in it. He actually used ethos, pathos, and logos to get us excited about public speaking the first day of class, which showed not only his passion for the subject, but how we can use public speaking in everyday life. He always planned out a lesson plan every day during class. But he wasn't, the best thing was he wasn't afraid to stray away from the lesson.
Really hate you now.
He wasn't afraid to stray away from the plan. He wants.
I'm closing Facebook, man.
Excuse me. He once spent an entire half class talking about the education system and how it needed to change. He listened to the concerns of his students, and you could tell that he really strived to be the best professor possible, and he did everything in his power to make sure that we were learning the material. Part of this, one of his methods to show him being the best professor was his system of the House of Rhetoric. When he first explained the A folder to me, a little part of me died inside. I thought, why is he making this class so much harder than it needs to be? But then I realized that this just shows how dedicated he was to making sure we learned the material, and how he was full of second chances with the online quizzes. But his great character shined outside of the classroom as well as inside. He served as a role model to his students. He was a fatherly figure away from his students from home. Fatherly figure, yes, okay. And he showed his great morals inside and outside of the classroom.
Don't ask.
He never preached to us, however, he shined Christ's light in almost everything he did. Matthew 5:16 says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." I think this verse really shows how Professor Fike taught and his teaching methods. Professor Fike also served as a mentor. He cared about his students other than just their grades. He cared about them as people. An example of this is one of the students informed me that he actually went out of his way to call HRL and make sure that the student was okay. He also, when I was sick, I emailed him and was like, "I'm sorry, I'm missing your class." And he told me, he was like, "Annie, like, you're allowed to be sick in college." And he just like really cared about the individual students, and just was always made sure that they were having a good day. Always asked how their day was, and he was always there for them, whether the students knew it or not. Professor Fike served as a friend. We shared countless laughs in his classroom, because he wasn't afraid to make fun of himself or others. He could make fun of me, in case you didn't get that. An example of this is when he called one of his students, who was born and raised in California. He thought he was from Japan. Another example is him numbering the Ashleys, which calls for fun conversation as well as conversation as well as irritability from Ashley number 2. We made up words in his class and acronyms like ACT, as well as Hitler-esque, which is Hitler-like, or like Hitler. But he really made sure to connect with his students on a personal level. For me, we bonded about Journey and the Steve Miller Band. For other students, it was about the love of football, especially since he's a very passionate man. Especially since he was a die-hard Alabama football fan. Barry Fike was a great man, and it's really tragic that we have to see him go on this earth. But he's not going to leave us without a fight. He never did. Professor Fike will always be in our hearts and in our memories. James 1:2 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kind." Although this is going to be one of the hardest trials losing Professor Fike will ever have, I can just see him saying and smiling, it's not a test, it's a celebration. And so, Professor Fike, we will celebrate your life today, and in our memory, we thank you so much for being our professor, our friend, our mentor, and our role model. Thank you very much.